In this lesson, we're going to examine the spelling patterns of final j, or in other words, j as we hear it at the end of words. So the first thing you need to remember is that GE and DGE do not add extra syllables to the end of the word. The E is silent and therefore does not add an alphabet E sound. For example, in the word language, the E is silent. We have a j, language. The word page, the E is silent. We hear a j, page. And in the word strange, so think back to our OY and OI vowel lesson, the sound oi. Perhaps you might remember the rule: English words cannot end in the letters I, U, V, or J. We learned this to prove that boy could not be spelled as B-O-I, or annoy couldn't be spelled A-N-N-O-I. We use this rule again when we hear J at the end of a word. Whenever you hear j at the end of a word, it cannot be spelled with a J, so we must either use DGE or GE instead. Just as page cannot be spelled P-A-J, neither can the word strange be spelled with a J at the end. So when do we use GE and when do we use DGE if they both make the same sound? It's a really straightforward rule with DGE. We use DGE for words ending in the j sound when they have a relative vowel sound. In other words, a, e, I, a. Some people call them short vowel sounds. So in words like badge, ledge, bridge, lodge, or judge. So the DGE rule is pretty simple. However, the rule for GE has a couple of conditions. Number one, use GE when it comes after an alphabet sound. So in a word like rage, huge, stage, all of those contain alphabet sounds, so you're going to use GE. The second rule says, if there is a consonant right before the j sound, use GE. And in this case, the vowel sound doesn't matter. Let's consider the word merge. You have a consonant right before the j, so we add GE. We don't need the D. Or the word gorge. You have a consonant right before the j, add GE. Or the word cringe. Even though it's a relative sound I, we have a consonant right before the j sound, so we add GE. Or the word range. There's a consonant sound right before the j, we add GE. Or the word large. Or the word bulge. All of these words have a consonant right before the j. Let's do some sorting. I'll say a word, listen carefully, and decide which column it goes into. Listen for whether it has a consonant sound before the j. If it does, you know it will go into the GE column. If it doesn't have a consonant sound, listen to the vowel sound. If you hear a relative sound, you know it'll go into the DGE column. So let's get started. The first word is sponge. Sponge. Sp-a-n-j. Hopefully you heard a consonant right before the j, and you know that it's spelled with GE. Here's the next word, lodge. Lodge. L-a-j. The next word, cage. Cage. That has an alphabet sound, so we just add GE. The next word, edge. Edge. E-j. Goes right here. The next word, smudge. Smudge. S-m-a-smudge. Goes in this column. The next one, singe. Singe. S-i-n-j. Singe. Hopefully you heard that N sound before the j. The next word, fudge. Fudge. F-a-j. The next word, It's a two-syllable word. Cartridge, cartridge, cartridge goes here. And then the next one is charge, charge, ch-arge. So you notice that in this column, you're hearing a vowel sound, but you're not hearing a consonant before the j. So you've got the a, and I, all relative vowel sounds with no consonant that comes before the j. So you're going to add DGE. Over here in the GE pattern, you hear alphabet sounds, you're going to add a GE. You hear relative sounds, but you hear that consonant right before the j, so you add a GE. So, using GE and DGE instead of j follows an earlier rule that we learned. Do you remember which rule? The sound j is possible and allowable because of the soft G rule that we just learned in the previous lesson. G softens before the letters E, I, or Y. So if we take this word page, the G before the E softens to a J. That's how it's possible to say page instead of pag. Try pronouncing each of these words without the E. Stage would become stag. Cage would become cag. Huge would become hug. Barge would become barg. In each of these words, the letter E was added to soften the G. So without the E, we'd have to say the hard G sound. This concludes our lessons on J endings. If you are my Spelling 5 online student, please continue to the dictations. If you happen to be watching on YouTube and you'd like additional pronunciation practice, there are some great channels, Rachel's English and English Central. If you want more spelling practice, here are some other channels you can look up, or you can simply search Spelling Practice or Spelling Practice ESL. Good luck!